Ex-husband put me thousands in debt. I am a single mother in the United States with no other family except my daughter. I have been divorced from my first husband for about 10 years, and recently I decided to get married a second time to a residential doctor who now is my ex-husband. My ex-husband and I met each other 3 months prior to getting married. When I first met him, we both introduced each other to our families through voice calls, as both of our families are overseas. He promised me 5K in Mehr, which he never gave me even up until now. When I told him to go get legally married, he refused because he gets grants from his home country, Saudi Arabia. And if they find out that he's married to a non-Saudi, they will stop funding his schooling, according to him. I never got my Mehr because he had to pay back 30K in loans. I told him that the Mehr can wait, and I allowed him to borrow money from me for his loans, which I also never got back. We didn't live together throughout our entire marriage. He would come here and there, but he always had to go back home because he told me he had to go take care of his oldest son, niece, and nephew who were only at his home to visit him from his home country. I will get back to this later. 3 months later, he proposed a business idea. I initially refused the idea because we both had no money. He was in debt, in residency, and didn't even have money for my Mehr or the money I loaned him. He told me that we could still start the business because he has stocks that he will sell to be able to afford it. After 1 month of searching, we finally found the cheap store to buy. We put the business under my name because, at the time of purchase, my ex-husband told the broker to let me sign it because he loves me so much. When we opened our store, he quit his residential school, which shocked me, and told me he will work and study for a state license. The first few months of the business was fine, although I was feeling super tired as I was working 2 jobs. The business he opened and the job I had prior to it. My ex-husband had no income at that moment except for what we made at the restaurant, which was very little. He used to get all the revenue from the business for his expenses while I didn't have any share of it. I had to pay my own rent, my daughter's school, and expenses from the other job I was working. One day I called him while he was at his home, and he accidentally answered. In the background, I heard him speaking to his wife, who he told me he had divorced prior to marriage. He told me he was divorced and that his ex-wife and 4 of their kids were in Saudi Arabia, while the 5th and oldest child lived with him. Turned out to be all a lie. After I found out his wife and kids were here, he came to me crying and apologizing, saying that her family flew her over here, and it was his oldest son who opened the door to her and let her in. He told me that if it upset me, he can send her and her kids back to Saudi Arabia. I refused because I felt bad for her and her kids. I begged him to take care of her and his kids as well. His supposed ex-wife, which he never divorced, told him she wanted to meet me. I went over to their home while our husband went outside. When I was getting to know her, she told me that they never got divorced and that the last time she was in Saudi Arabia was in 2018. She also told me that she sent me emails months ago and that I needed to check my inbox. She also told me to not fight with him because he loves me, and she asked me when I going to give him his green card because he promised her that he will help her once he gets it from me. When I got home, I checked my inbox to see what she had sent me. She told me she was waiting for us to get divorced because he told her that he only got married to me for his benefits and was planning to divorce me after he gets what he wants. After this incident, I started to be more cautious. I decided to check his phone and the text messages between him and his wife. In those text messages, I saw her asking him when is he going to divorce me. I also saw that he was sending her videos of when he used to sleep with me, and I'd never noticed him recording. After I saw these messages, I confronted him, and he swore to Allah that he will never record me again. I decided to check his phone once more and saw that he was still sending her videos of me naked, and she was requesting them. He would ask me to have a threesome with him and his wife, and when I'd refuse and tell him to fear Allah, he would laugh and mock me, saying I am way too closed-minded and religious. He also told me his wife wanted to sleep with him and I in the same bed. One day he asked me if I can record a tape with him so he can post it on the internet without our faces to make money, and I told him haram. I'm a hijabi woman, and I sometimes fear that he will post the videos he used to secretly take of me to the internet if he hasn't yet. I accumulated all the lies, and I decided I no longer wanted to be married and asked him to switch the business under his name or sell it because there was barely any profit from it except for what he used to take, and the business was putting me in so much debt. I remained patient and stayed in the marriage so I wouldn't lose all my money, as I am a single mother and I have nobody to help me. Whenever I spoke out for my rights, he would start to beat and hit me. One time someone outside our store saw him hitting me and called the police. When the police arrived, I told them that everything was alright even though I had a bruise on my face. The only reason I lied to the police was because he used to manipulate me and tell me that if I ever called the cops on him for hitting me that he wouldn't lose anything because he would go back to Saudi Arabia and he will leave me alone to drown in my debt. A few weeks later, we closed the store. After the day we closed our business, his attitude completely changed. I felt like he was not the same person he was before. When I sent him a message asking if he was done with me and took everything that he wanted, he came to my home and started to hit me. I told him to stop coming to my home, and he started coming every day, but I would lock the doors and wouldn't let him in. I also told him to give me back my car, which I let him use for his errands as I worked remotely and didn't use it. He left my car damaged and dirty and left me thousands of dollars of tickets and tollways. After this, he called his family and got them to intervene. They asked me to let him in because he had left some important papers at my home that he needed for his school. When I let him in, he begged me for forgiveness, and he took the sales agreement of the business and told me that he was going to sell the business equipment in pieces. 2 weeks later, he goes to the store by himself and told me that he sold the equipment for only $1. For $100. I found out after the divorce that he sold it for $10K to the landlord, who was the same person who told me this information. He never split the money for the equipment, and he took it all for himself. When I told him I was struggling with the debt he put me in and needed my money from the equipment he sold, he told me he doesn't have it and told me he'll give it to me later. Subhanallah, I had a bad feeling and decided to check his YouTube channel, and on there he posted himself on vacation with his family of 7 in Florida with a brand new car. After the YouTube video, I called his family and the sheikh and got divorced. I told the landlord that he had no right to purchase the equipment since it was under my name. I told the landlord that I will sue him, so he got scared, blocked me, and hung up. One of the landlord's family members called me and said that he was going to use me first for the damages in the store. There are no damages, by the way. He also wants to sue me for not terminating the lease on a good term. I'm so scared because I don't make that much money, and I am completely broke. I tried to call my ex-husband to get all the money he took from me, however he has me blocked. I asked him where's the lease termination or the keys, but he does not respond. When one of our previous workers contacted him, he said that he isn't the manager and that he is not under payroll and was only helping me. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm struggling to get myself an attorney. Please keep me in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum and jazakallahu khairan for taking your time to read this.